Facebook. Y'all should know how I am. And yes, that's how I am in real life. Okay, there's no hiding behind that. All right. But yes, the bulk of the 10 tribes had already left that Middle Eastern region. All right. And you had 4 tribes left, which is the third part. You had Judah. Okay, you had Benjamin, you had Levi there as a priest that was joined unto them as well. And then you had the tribe of Simeon. Okay, remember, Simeon, okay, or the so-called Dominicans of Negro descent. All right, I've been trying to tell brothers this, that there's 3 different types of Dominicans. There's a Spaniard Dominicans, there's a Negro Dominicans, which some of them have mixed in with the so-called Haitians, and then there's the native Indian Dominicans, okay, like the Arawaks, okay, that was there before. Right, that's the house of Joseph. They're known as a tribe of Manasseh. Okay, the so-called Dominicans of Indian descent is from the tribe of Manasseh. Remember, Manasseh outnumbered all the 10 tribes. There were so many of them that the Most High had to split the land into East and West Manasseh of a half a tribe. When you read, I believe, Joshua, the 18th or 19th chapter. All right, so the Cubans of Indian descent and the Dominicans of Indian descent, they make up the tribe of, okay, Manasseh, of the house of Joseph. The Dominicans of Negro descent, they are Simeon. Okay, men have to understand that, because a lot of men was teaching that the Dominicans or the Simeonites came over here to the Americas. No, the Simeonites was part of the Southern Kingdom. Their capital was on Beersheba. That was a capital. And remember, Simeon got absorbed into Judah. All right, so when you get to understanding the Negro tribe, Simeon is part of that. So that's the 4 tribes, which is a third part of the 12. They were the ones that got left behind in Israel, and they're the ones that caught the bulk of the hell from the Roman Empire, which was that red dragon here in Revelation 12 that the Lord is speaking of when it concerning his tail. Okay, when you get the understanding, all right? So give me Deuteronomy chapter 10, verse 23, because it said it drew the third part of the stars of heaven. Let's prove who the stars of heaven are. Okay, let's get Deuteronomy chapter 10, verse 22. Everything's going to be proven through scripture up here. We're not teaching nothing without at least 3 or 4 precepts. Okay, that's it. Okay, that's how diabolical and through the spirit of Most High, while Yahweh Shah's sword cut precision, okay, these teachers are going to become now. Read Deuteronomy chapter 10, verse 22.
Thy fathers went down into Egypt.
The Lord said, thy fathers went down into Egypt. This is Moses talking to the Israelites. Read.
With 70 persons.
Which is 70 souls. Read.
And now the Lord thy power, I made thee as the stars of heaven for multitude.
Right, so the Israelites are the stars of heaven for multitude. When it said they drew the third part of the stars of heaven, meaning the southern kingdom. Because remember, 4 is the third part of 12, if men can understand that. All right, it takes 4 times 3 is 12. That's basic math. So a third part will represent 4 out of the 12 tribes, which is Judah, Benjamin, Levi, as well as Simeon. They were the ones that got drawn apart and treated harshly by the Romans. They're the ones that mainly fled into Africa. You understand? We get the understanding. So read it again, Deuteronomy chapter 10, verse 12.
Verse 12.
Deuteronomy chapter 10, verse 22. Salah.
Actually, verse 22 proves it's talking about the Israelites.
Oh, yeah.
It says, and now, verse 12. And now,
that was my fault. Deuteronomy chapter 10, verse 22, because you just read that. Yeah. That was my fault. That's what I meant to call back out.
Yeah, but verse 12 proves that it's talking about the Israelites.
Oh, yeah, so read verse 12 then. Yeah, That was the spirit.
And now, Israel, what doth the Lord thy power require of thee, but to fear the Lord thy power, to walk in all his ways, and to love him, and to serve the Lord thy power with all thy heart and with all thy soul.
Right. So now drop down to verse 22.
Thy fathers went down into Egypt with 70 persons, and now the Lord thy power hath made thee as the stars of heaven for multitude.
Right. So the stars of heaven is referring to who? The Israelites. So the third part of that represents 4 out of the 12 tribes. Okay, which is Judah, Benjamin, Levi, and Simeon. They were the ones who the Roman Empire conquered and indoctrinated with their tail, which is their philosophies and their lies. All right, give me Exodus chapter 32, verse 13. Okay, the book of Exodus chapter 32, verse 13. All right, to get the understanding of that.
Exodus chapter 32, verse 13.
Read.
Remember Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, thy servants, to whom thou swearest by thine own self, and says unto them, I will multiply your seed as the stars of heaven.
Right, so the stars of heaven in Revelation 12 is referring to the Israelites. The third part of that represents the southern kingdom, Judah, Benjamin, Levi, and Simeon. Read.
And all this land that I have spoken of will I give unto your seed, and they shall inherit it forever.
Right, and Levi is considered to be part of the southern kingdom and the northern kingdom. Let's bring that out too. Remember, Levi had Levitical cities. okay, set up all throughout the land of Israel. But the reason being that Levi will be more of a Negro descent is because it shared the same mother as Judah. Okay, that was the same mother, Leah. All right, so as well as Simeon as well. You know what I'm saying? So those were mainly like the Negro or southern tribes or the southern kingdom. You understand? So when you get to understanding, the stars of heaven is referring to the 12 tribes of Israel. The third part represents the southern kingdom. Those are the main ones that the dragon, which was a Roman empire at that time, as well as the Greeks and the Romans that drove a lot of our people that was left in that land region, mainly the southern kingdom, into their philosophies and their doctrines and their lies. Give me Deuteronomy chapter 1, verse 1. Okay, let's further prove that. Okay, this is precision. Okay, this is how you're supposed to teach the word of the Lord. Okay, Deuteronomy chapter 1, verse 1.
These be the words which Moses spake unto all Israel on this side Jordan.
Right, so these are the words that Moses spoke unto all the 12 tribes of Israel. Drop down to verse 10.
Verse 10. The Lord your power hath multiplied you, and behold, ye are this way as the stars of heaven for multitude.
So there should be no question what the stars of heaven is referring to in Revelation 12. It's referring to the nation of Israel. The third part, like I said, is a southern kingdom. Let's go back to Revelation chapter 12, verse 4 again.
And his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven.
So like we brought out before, that's a southern kingdom, all right? The tail represented the leaders and the philosophers and the generals of the Greco-Roman Empire that seduced our people to go contrary to the words of God. Okay, that mainly affected the southern kingdom that dealt with the Roman Empire at this time. Read.
And they cast them to the earth.
So what does cast them into the earth represent? You can hold that. Give me Daniel chapter 8, verse 8. To show you and prove that this was also done with the Greeks. The Greeks is also part of that red dragon. Okay, because when you read Revelation 12, it speaks about a dragon. A red dragon with 7 heads. Okay, so the 7 heads represent the 7 identities of Edom and Esau. Okay, when they were leaders and rulers of these countries. All right, these 7 different mountains, which were the 7 different countries. Okay, concerning that. Like I said, if you want more further breakdown on the red dragon, then you have to email me another time. Okay, I may go into you over the email, or I may decide to do another video. Okay, but the brother requested verses 4 through 13. So read Daniel chapter 8, verse 8.
Therefore, the he-goat waxed very, very great.
One of the heads of the red dragon was the Greeks. In Daniel, the 8th chapter, because you got to understand, Daniel and John's visions were very similar, if not identical, damn near. All right, the he-goat is referring to the Greeks under Alexander. We get the understanding. And it said that the he-goat waxed very great. That's referring to Alexander. If you want to get more further proof on that, then that's a different show. But that's referring to Alexander. Read.
And when he was strong, the great horn was broken.
Right. When it said that, and when he was strong, the great horn was broken. Okay, which represents the Persians. Okay, the Persians were that horn. Okay, when you get the understanding, the Persian Medo Empire was the horns that the Greeks conquered. Read.
And for it came up 4 notable ones toward the 4 winds of heaven.
Right, the 4 notable ones was referring to 4 generals that helped Alexander take over the known world at that time. Okay, Lysimachus, Cassander. Okay, then you had Ptolemy. Okay, and then you had it was Lysimachus, Cassander, Ptolemy. What was the other one? Seleucus, I believe it's Seleucus. Okay, I think it was Seleucus was one of them. It was Lysimachus, and it was Cassander. Okay, it was Ptolemy, and I think it was Seleucus. All right, a Seleucus. Okay, one of the 4 generals. Okay, the 4 generals. Okay, that was up under Alexander. All right, those are the 4 notable ones. Okay, I'm not sure about their names. I believe that's who they were. Okay, further email me for that. Okay, and I can give it more definitely. I believe it was Lysimachus, and it was Cassander, it was Ptolemy, and Seleucid. Okay, the Seleucid dynasty, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so read on.
For notable ones toward the 4 winds of heaven.
Right, which is north, south, east, and west, the different areas that they conquered. Okay, right, because we read about Epiphanes. Okay, Epiphanes came out the Seleucid dynasty, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, Seleucid was one of the generals of Alexander. Okay, those are the 4 notable ones. Okay, so read on.
Verse 9. And out of one of them came forth a little horn.
Right, Antiochus Epiphanes. And out of one of them came forth a little horn. Read.
Which waxed exceedingly great toward the south and toward the east and toward the pleasant land.
Right, and that was Epiphanes. Okay, south was referring to Egypt. Okay, the east was the Middle East, and toward the pleasant land, which was Israel. Okay, read on.
All right, verse 10, and it waxed great.
Right, Antiochus Epiphanes. You can read about him in Maccabees. He was one of the notable ones that came out the Seleucid dynasty that helped oppress Israel during the time of the Maccabees. It was Antiochus Epiphanes. You can read about him in history and in 1st and 2nd Maccabees. Okay, and the Lord said that he waxed great even to the hosts of heaven. Read.
And it waxed great even to the hosts of heaven.
Read, where let's represent the kingdoms. Read.
And it cast down some of the hosts and of the stars to the ground.
Right, which represents the Israelites. Okay, it is said to cast some of the hosts and of the stars to the ground. The stars represent the Israelites. We just proved that. And that means that the Greeks conquered us, okay, and destroyed us. Remember, it was the Greeks that destroyed Solomon's temple after it was rebuilt. And it started the abomination of desolation. Read.
And stamped upon them.
Right, stamp, which is synonymous with the word mark, okay, meaning they were indoctrinated. Okay, that's what it means. When it was stamped, meaning they was indoctrinated. Okay, the mark of the beast is dealing with indoctrination and things contrary to the words of God. Okay, that beast represents Esau or Edom, which is synonymous and same as the red dragon. Okay, in one chapter, he's the beast with 7 heads. He was given another name as a red dragon with 7 heads, but he was red. So this is referring to Esau, Edom as a nation. When it was known as the Greeks, okay, he did the same thing as far as conquering our people and indoctrinate them. All right. Meaning that he philosophized the people into following after Greco-Roman customs. So that third part that was drawn by that tail represents the nation of Israel, the stars of heaven, being indoctrinated by the heads of the red dragon. And this particular one is talking about the Greeks, but we're just going to sum it up by saying the Greco-Roman Empire. Read.
Yea, he magnified himself even to the prince of the host.
Right, which I believe was Onias. Okay, I believe Onias was that prince that Seleucid magnified himself against. He was a Levite in the temple. Okay, that he was giving him problems. You can read about them stories in the Maccabees. Read.
And by him the daily sacrifice was taken away.
Right, there was no more sacrifice. Now they was putting unclean animals on the altar, and they was polluting the temple. Okay, and they was doing all types of odious works in the temple. They defiled the temple, basically. That was the whole point of Hanukkah, was a rededicating of that temple that the Greeks destroyed and basically defiled by people was having sex in the temple, and they was sacrificing swine's flesh, an unclean animal. Read on.
And the place of his sanctuary was cast down.
Read.
And an host was giving him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression.
Meaning a lot of wicked Israelites, okay, begin to follow after the ways of the Greeks. That's why the scripture said in Revelation 12 that the tail drew a third part. It was a lot of our people that began to go after the ways of the Greeks, like 2/3 of them, just like it is now. There's nothing new under the sun. The same niggas out there that's causing problems and they don't want to repent, those are the same niggas back then that followed after the Greeks and the Romans and reincarnation. It's the same spirit. Read.
And it cast down the truth to the ground.
Right, the truth, the words of God was cast down to the ground. You couldn't even call yourself a Jew anymore. When we read about in the book of Maccabees, I think it's the 4th chapter, if you called yourself a Jew, you was put to death during the time of the Greeks. Read.
And it practiced and prospered.
Right, the practice and the prosperity of what? Of doctrines and philosophies and things, doing things contrary to the word of the Lord. Okay, and it prospered. So let's go back to Revelation chapter 12. And notice it said the truth was cast down to the ground as well as the stars of the hosts. Revelation chapter 12, verse 4.
And his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven, and they cast them to the earth.
Right, so that's going into the Greeks and the Romans. That's what they did. Okay, they got cast down into the earth when you get the understanding. Okay, read on.
And the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered.
So who was that woman? Okay, the woman is referring, it's a twofold. The woman is referring to the Mary, the mother of Christ, and it's referring to the nation of Israel bringing forth Christ, meaning Christ comes out of the nation of Israel. Because remember, Israel is the woman as well. We read Jeremiah 6, the daughters of Zion. Okay, we're the woman that Christ came out of, okay, because he was an Israelite. But it's also going into Mary as well, bringing forth Christ. Hold that. Give me Exodus chapter 1 verse. Matter of fact, continue reading here.
All right. For to devour her child as soon as it was born.
Right, because that was the whole point, okay, what Esau was trying to do. They tried to devour Christ before he was born. And that's the same spirit that the Egyptians did to us. Hold that. Give me Exodus chapter 1 verse 16. Okay. The same, that's why America, okay, and is referred to as modern day Egypt. Okay, because the same people, okay, that took over this land from the Native and Seminole Indians and the Aztec Indians, okay, were the same spirits that